Check that out, man.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. My name's Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard. You're watching Splash Pages. We have a kick-ass show for you, scheduled for you today. As always, Velvet Joker, how's it going, my friend?
It's going great. Did anybody see that kick-ass new intro that Leo just did for us?
Oh, you like that? You like that?
Yeah, that's some hot stuff right there.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And the equally awesome Drew Mallow, how's it going, bud?
That good.
Hello, good evening. I'm good. Yep, totally.
Why are
everyone.
you covering your face?
Check that intro out. That is some quality. Because I just surprise. I'm fine.
Okay.
Let's start the show.
Let's do it. So, Velvet Joker, you brought a
Yes.
guest with you. Who do you have?
I did. I brought the Nerd King himself, the King of New England cons, Mitchell Hallock, the Terrificon Man.
Hello, how are you? Nice to be here.
Hey, always glad to have you, Mitch. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. End of the year coming up. Looking back at a bunch of things, a lot of crazy things happening, but we made it through, and looking forward to 2022.
Yeah, totally.
The normal world, hopefully.
We're getting there. There's hope that Omicron is a less, a milder version. So
Let me tell you, if you're worried about when you're naming things after bad Transformer names, I think you're kind of winding down. I was like, what is it called? Omnicron? Tron?
Thank you.
It's a freaking bumblebee.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
myself,
Like
I was like,
Optimus Prime could kick this thing.
Sweepstakes.
Megatron's cousin.
Megatron. Yeah.
Yeah. I asked myself, I was like, what kid with a sweepstakes won that one?
I don't know if you know your Greek alphabet. They went from Delta to Omicron.
yeah,
That's like the
Omicron
18th letter.
and
So they
Happy
went
New
from
Year.
4 to 18. Where were the middle ones? I don't.
yeah, they just said fuck it, and we'll.
Yeah, they were just making it up. Wait, yeah.
If only we were scientists.
I don't know. Wait till the Delta Chi Chi one.
Oh
Isn't
my
that
God.
the Animal House virus?
What was that?
I said the Animal House virus. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, the Delta, whatever their name was, in Animal House.
Oh, the Delta.
old.
Yeah. But listen, no, it's fine. I got it. But I'm just waiting for the one that, either the population return to superhumans or mutants. And that's what I'm waiting for. Because then the nerds will be like, it is our time now.
Oh yeah. Well, why
We're
not
ready.
both?
Just because you want big
I don't-
furry
they-
feet like
they-
the Beast Drew,
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what? It's not it's not a fantasy when it becomes reality. I'm just saying. So, all right.
Hang from chandeliers
So,
from your feet. We understand.
Yeah, I just want to unleash my inner Kelsey Grammer. That's basically what it is. So I guess we'll just dive right into the purpose of this is that because the year wasn't tough enough, we, the nerd world, got hit with some really sad news recently. And I honestly is probably one of the saddest, but oddly most heartwarming thing I've seen of the nerd community in a while. I mean, to have anybody who knows comics knows who he is, announced that he has stage 3. Was it it's pancreatic, right?
Pancreatic, yeah.
Right. Can you hear? Yeah, pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
In a note that he wrote himself.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. Drew, you're coming in real spotty. Do you want to pop out and pop back in?
Wait, can you hear me now?
Your internet is crappy.
Hello? Testing.
Yeah, can you hear us?
My internet is
the hell's going
crappy.
on?
I can hear him a bit. He's a little breaking up. But yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you, Drew? Why don't you pop out and pop back in?
There you go.
Okay. So while we wait for him, obviously the bad news with George Pérez, his note was absolutely heartbreaking.
Mhm.
Just what were your thoughts when you first heard that, Mitch?
Well, you know what? I'm friends with Spencer Beck, who's George's rep for the last 40 years. And I was talking to him because we plan, what guests are coming to Terrificon 2022 and all that. So I always say, hey, if George wants to come. And then Spencer was really quiet on the phone. And I know he retired from shows. And I said, yeah, everything okay? He's like, well, I can't say anything. You'll find out soon enough. And this was like a week before. And he wouldn't say anything. I says, everything all right? He goes, yeah, just change the subject. So we kind of went on. And I was thinking in the back of my head, gee, that was weird. What's going on there? And then when the news came out, it was just like first thing in the morning, like 11 o'clock. And as soon as I saw it, I just went, oh my God, that's what he was that's what he knew, because Spencer knew about it, because obviously George told him, because they're friends and such. So I called him up and I said, "Oh no, of all the things," I was like, "What could it be? Is there some kind of cool, because I know George had heart problems and he has diabetes." I was like, "Oh, maybe something good's happening. Maybe he's gonna, start coming back and doing shows again or working again, or some miracle happened." But I never saw this coming. So when I read that, I mean, I was literally just heartbroken. I just stared and was like, "You got to be kidding me! This poor guy, the nicest guy in all of comics. Okay, that's it. He's like the Lou Gehrig of comics. Nobody says a bad thing about George Pérez. And the trouble he's had over the years, he's had some, very bad diabetes. He's had trouble with his eye. He's had multiple surgeries on his eye, like 13 laser surgeries. And then he's had heart issues the last couple of years that stopped him from coming to Terrificon a couple of years ago, because he had like 2 heart attacks when he was at a show in New Jersey like a couple months earlier. So you're like, what else could happen to this man? He deserves a break.
Yeah.
There's nobody should have to endure so many ailments, especially in his mid 60s. He's not an old man. And then when this comes, you're like, you know what? Come on, man. Come on, God. How many times you're gonna knock this guy down? But to his credit, and this is where he's a beautiful person, he just gets right up. And other people might just gave up. They might have just thrown the towel in and just looked at the calendar and just counted the days and never see him again. But what's George do? George does what George Pérez would do. He dusts himself off, looks at what he's been dealt, and he says, "I'm going to play the hand, and I'm going to go out smiling, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I'm going to, try to talk to the fans, and I'm going to try to do as much as I can in the time that's allotted." Again, it's like, it's amazing. I mean, Peter David, the writer, he wrote that day when he saw the news, he's like, he couldn't imagine. He said, "If that was me, I couldn't imagine doing what George is doing, being positive about the situation and talking about how he, how he considers himself lucky and he wants to see his fans one more time." I mean, it really is extraordinary when you think about it. I mean, who here could say, if they have the same diagnosis, that they're going to say, "You know what? I'm going to go out there and make the best of what I got in the time I'm allotted." I mean, it's a really, really amazing thing that he's done. So that's all I got to say. I'm just like you guys. I said I was heartbroken. That's it. I was like, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and it shouldn't happen to him. He doesn't deserve this, but
And has everybody here met him? Like Leo, did you get a chance to meet him? Rich, have you met him?
Kind of superficially at a con that Mitch produced in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I got to take some pictures with him in the background, but his line was really long. And I super regretted that I did not get on that line and plop down that $40, which I think you, Drew, had the same sort of interaction there at that convention.
Oh my God.
And then when he canceled out on Mitch's con, because I think he was having heart issues with it, like 2016, maybe, Mitch?
It was, well, he tried to come back in 2018, and that's when he had the first heart problems. Then he was going to try to come in 2019.
Okay.
For one day. We were like crazy trying to schedule stuff because he had something that he was going to do in Florida near his house. He was going to fly. This is how crazy it is. He was going to fly up on a Thursday night, do the show for Friday, meet as many people as he can, autograph as many things he can, and then leave immediately at 7:00 at night on Friday and fly back to Orlando to be at another convention he was supposed to be at on Saturday. I mean, let me just tell you, I deal with these folks all the time. As great as they are, no one's going to do that. Nobody in the 10 years I've been doing this show has ever said, "Oh, I've got another commitment. I'm going to fly up, do your show, spend time with those fans, and then fly to the other side of the country and do another show immediately." Nobody does that. I mean, it's just unheard of. So
no rest. It's insane.
He was, and the thing of it is, like I said, he had his heart problems, and we were like, "George, honestly, I appreciate it, but you don't have to do it. I don't want this guy getting any sicker and running himself ragged just to make sure everyone's happy." So we finally said, you know what? It was literally like 3 weeks before the show, a month before the show. We said, logistically, you're putting yourself out there too much. You don't have to do this. And he's like, I want to do it. I want to do it. And we're like, look, you know what? I love the fans too, but you know what? At the end of the day, your health's more important. They'll get over it. So what does he do? He goes ahead and we print up a Wonder Woman print, and he autographs. I don't know how many we had, like 5 or 6, 7, 800. We gave them out to everybody who waited in line that wanted to see him that day. So the first day you came in, they were gone in like an hour because everybody just wanted to see Perez. So he goes and does it for free. You didn't have to buy the print. You came in and you got the print autographed by George. So, I mean, again, you don't understand this.
Damn.
People don't do this. Actors don't do this. Rock stars don't do this. Maybe Alice Cooper, as close as I could think of, he did something similar years ago at Terrificon. He just signed a bunch of photos and just handed them out to his fans, no charge. But yeah, it's amazing. And that's to answer your question. Yeah, that's the last time George was supposed to come up here. Was 2019. We had something arranged for him. So.
Yeah, Drew. But everything I've ever heard about him and the outpouring of love that we've seen on the internet for him, he just seems like he's a wonderful, wonderful man. Did you have a direct experience with him, Drew?
Yeah, I met him 2 cons. The first one was this. I call them hotel cons because they're always, they take place in a hotel, and it was this one in New York. The hotel is right above the TikTok diner. I can't remember the name of it. It was very small, but he was there, and all I had for him was like a few issues stuff. And now in retrospect, I should have had everything. He was very nice. We talked about because he, like I told you guys, he was an inker for part of whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is the 2-part Alan Moore series that he did. And he was talking about that, about working with Kurt Swan, which, unfortunately had passed, years ago, was great. And then I remember it was, again, just as you said, I met him at Mitch's Con, and I was in Bridgeport, and I was online, and I waited, I think, like 10 minutes, and I had him sign my copies of JLA Avengers, which we're going to talk about today. And I think a few other issues. And I asked if he wouldn't mind taking a photo. And he was so excited. Well, no, we took a photo, and I just, Hawaiian shirt, enthusiastic. I mean, it was like doing a thumbs up with a power battery. You could not feel happy around him. He was just so energetic. It was almost like being in the room with a dynamo. He just lit everybody up. And that was also still back in the day when he would do these marathon drawing sessions. And again, $40, whatever character you wanted. If you wanted a Wolverine, bam, you got a Wolverine. If you wanted a Titans, just say the Titan. Give him $40, come back in like 2 hours. It'd be done. It'd be inked. It would be gorgeous. And then later on, and I sent Leo photos, as I definitely want to talk about something that I did that it was actually a tribute to him and Marv Wolfman, which was at the con, Mitch, that he was supposed to be at with Marv. That was East Coast Comic Con.
Yep.
Which was the last time I was in. Yeah. Could you make it a little smaller? Because you cut one of the heads out. So I had put together a Titans group. It was the New Teen Titans, and they were the 80s version. And I had everybody minus a cyborg, and everybody was serious. And my girlfriend had been Donna Troy, and everybody was pumped. We were all really excited. I put together the shoot. I had a photographer, everything. I read every issue of Titans myself to get all the reference photos from like 1 to 55 in like a week. So goddamn. And then the morning of, we saw the news about George. I mean, we still got photos of Marv Wolfman. It was great. But I mean, it was just so sad. And I was supposed to I tried doing it again when he was at East Coast.
Yeah.
But I don't really like speaking poorly of cons. But I do feel that the management really didn't prepare for that as well as they should have, because everybody showed up. And the lines
I remember that.
were
I was there.
huge. Yeah. Yeah, the lines were huge. It was not well organized. You had the people who were working the con had no idea what they were doing. They were giving contradictory information. And I want to make it clear that man would have sat there till midnight meeting everybody. He would have done it, but obviously they couldn't, and they had to keep cutting the lines and whatnot. And I had another Teen Titans group. I had organized another one, and they wouldn't even let us do this. All we wanted was just one photo with George. We just wanted to meet him and just, and we'd even signed a photo of everybody, wishing him a happy retirement, and we couldn't even give it to him. So yes, thank you, Leo. You do this so fast, man. It's not a comic. It was so sad because that was the last time.
You know what?
And
I was going to say, I know that show because I had breakfast with him at the hotel before he went over there. And I think it was Saturday morning or Sunday morning. I can't remember which day, but he was there and his wife, Carol, was there, and Spencer Beck. And we were all sitting around, and he was talking about the way people react to him at shows and fans and such like that. And I was just listening to him as he talked. And he said, it's something to watch their faces, because it might have been one issue that they read or a whole series that they read, and it just stayed with them, or they might have had a troubled time when they read this, and it was a distraction from reality. And he said he just sees their face light up, and that's why he spends so much time. He always takes a picture with the fans. He always gives them a hug, like you said. He's always on his feet when they come to his table. He's not one of those guys that just puts his head down and signs and shoves the thing next, and that. Every single person gets a special moment with him. And when you say those lines are out the door, I was there. They were having fights in those lines. People were arguing. People were trying to cut the line. It went down the whole auditorium outside the door, and it was getting ugly.
Yeah.
And there was some fighting going on, and there was some people were being rude to George's helper. Can't think of her name right now. It's she's been with George forever, and I know her name, and I'm sorry, I just can't remember it right now. But what happened is he said, listen, if you're going to continually be rude, and he said he doesn't yell. George doesn't yell. He just said it like a fact. He said, if you're going to be rude and not talk to her in a professional, polite manner, I'm leaving. He didn't say it more than once. He didn't threaten anybody. He just said, listen, that's it. Line up, be polite, treat people with respect, or I'm getting up and I'm walking out that door and I'm not coming back. Let me tell you, boom, a cop couldn't have got people more organized than that, okay? You didn't need brute force or a gun. You just need somebody to look at you right in the eye and say, cut the shit, okay? Grow up and act like a fucking human being, and don't swear at people, don't push people. And they did it. They just, yes, sir, George. And then boom, and Starlin was there, and Joe Rubenstein was there, and Ron Lim was there. They had the whole Infinity Gauntlet crew.
Right.
I just remember Starlin looking over and like that, and everybody snapped to attention. But again, George is not a guy that's going to be aggressive. He's not a mean-spirited person at all. There's not a mean bone in his body. But because he treats people that way, respectfully, he expected it to be, and they did. They just went ahead with whatever he wanted. So, I mean, that's one of those things. It's you really don't see a lot of people like that could pull that off. That
his legend commands respect.
Yeah, it says that's it. Act like a decent person, or I'm out. So.
What about you, Leo? Did you have any interesting interactions with George?
Unfortunately, I never had a chance to meet him.
Oh, that's unfortunate. And Drew, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Did you have something else to say about it?
No, I was just going to say those are my only two times. Like I said, I would have loved to have met him. I have so much more of his work that I really appreciate. I own all of Crisis on Infinite Earths. I own all of, all 2 issues of Future Perfect that he did with Peter David, which is amazing. And it's one of my favorite Hulk stories of all time. Even, all the other stuff. Like I remember he did some pages in Infinite Crisis, which are amazing. And he even did some pages of Avengers 500. He's been everywhere. But for me, like I said, it was just one of those things where for me, it was someone I looked up to in a way because I always do my best to try to be a decent person to everybody. And unfortunately, I can get mad. Uh and I have a bit of a temper sometimes. But George, I kind of try to follow that same thing. Treat everybody with respect, be an adult. If you can't do that, there's the door. Because that's the way it should be, versus let's be petty and aggressive and think everyone's right and fight about it instead of being adults. I think there's definitely something there that we can aspire to. And yeah, I mean, I think just the thing that really strikes me is I mean, I'm following his page. He's seeing family. He went to a shoot recently, a fan shoot at a con, and I remember seeing videos. I think it was like Dragon Con of the DC shoots that he would be there, and he would supervise. And I remember at the end of it, he had like a bullhorn for one of these videos, and he said, "You make me very proud to be a DC artist or a Marvel artist," and it was just phenomenal seeing that, and I really hope, I mean, this is just a pipe dream, but if he is anywhere on the East Coast that's within driving distance, like, I will take the day off. I will call in sick. I will travel with people. And even if I just get one book signed and one photo or whatnot, I don't really care. I just kind of want to, be there and kind of, I guess in some way, like what he's saying, kind of say goodbye in some really morose, sad way, right? It does that make sense? Also, you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah. It feels like a piece of closure is what you're looking for,
Okay.
Drew.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the thing I just really want to do, and I honestly, if I reach out to one of his reps and I get an address, I just really want to send him the thing I wanted to give him back in 2019, the photo of everybody with everyone's autograph and just wishing him a happy retirement. Like, I'm kind of good even if I just give him that, just that was really my goal, so yeah. That's my 2 cents. I'm sure Mitch has better stories.
We've got a lot of stories, but how much time do you want?
Well, yeah, I know. well, we've done long interviews, Mitch. So you never know.
I do know there is something in the works, though. I'm not at liberty to tell you what it is, but I talked to Spencer, and they are working on some type of event for George. So
okay,
there might be an opportunity
cool
for you to see it.
Well,
not Terrific Con. So it's not.
He's had an amazing career. An amazing career as both an artist and a writer, which you don't see as often in the comic industry.
Right.
And his talent went across decades.
Yeah.
From Avengers to, the creation of Taskmaster, Deathlock. His name speaks volumes. Even I think he got away from Marvel and DC for a while, did a little bit of Malibu Comics.
How about that iconic, you talked about George being at a photo shoot. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's multiple photos out there of George recreating the cover of Crisis where he's holding up, or Superman's holding up Supergirl.
Yep.
And George has done that a lot with cosplayers. You'll see George, even in the 80s and the 90s, when he was, in shape and stronger, he'd lift up like a cosplayer and he'd put his head up and he'd do the famous anguish scream up to the skies that, he's holding this dead Supergirl body or something like that. So it's pretty funny to see. If you go do a search, you'll find a bunch of images of George playing with the fans like that. I just always remember that's a good one. I remember, honestly, you talked about stuff. One of the first times I encountered him as a kid was a series called Deathlock, which is Richard Buckler. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there you go. See him there? That's George right there with the Hawaiian shirts always, and holding up cosplayers and recreating the classic Crisis cover. I mean, that's just
wow.
There's a lot of those
That's
out there,
amazing.
you know.
Yeah, I'm just having a good
That's
time.
Look at 'em.
fantastic.
Yeah.
He,
No, and I was gonna say, yeah, it was
and it's so
Deathlock.
because I remember.
It was Rich
Yeah,
Buckler's
go
book.
Rich.
Yeah. So, and Klaus
Right.
Janson was on that. Yeah.
Marvel.
And
Yeah.
they were all there in Bridgeport. Rich Buckler was still alive. He was there, and I remember I had my Deathlock book. It's Astonishing Tales 27 or something. So Rich signed it, and then I walked over. Klaus Janson signed it, and then I go, "Oh, geez, I got to get George to sign." And literally, George just started working on that. It was one of his first Marvel books, and then he got it. So that's one of my prized possessions is having Deathlock, which was not a big character at all, you know. And then he went on. He did the Man Wolf, which was another throwaway series. David Anthony Kraft was the writer on it, and George worked on that. Then he's Logan's Run, the movie. They did an adaptation for Marvel, and George did some of that. And then he starts popping up with, like you said, Avengers, but Marvel 2-in-1, Fantastic Four. He was fantastic on all those Marvel 2-in-1 stories. They had Project Pegasus and the Aquarian, and the artwork was amazing. So, and then he went to Titans. After that, he ran over to DC and he started working on the Teen Titans. And that's what made me go over to DC, because I was a Marvel zombie. I'm not going to read DC comics at all. I'm not reading Superman or Batman, but I started picking up Marv and George's Teen Titans. And then I went into the Crisis and stuck with them. Then right after the Crisis, George rebooted with Wonder Woman. Remember that? They redid Wonder Woman, and George was part of that. So, yeah. It's got a long career of great books.
Yep.
You know, came back to Marvel with the Avengers with Kurt Busiek.
It's
That run too. That was beautiful artwork. I mean, you can just look at the pages. So,
oh god,
Yeah.
always.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and then again, he would just occasionally stuff. But
the book we're talking about tonight, JLA Avengers, you could tell he had a blast making that.
Oh yes, yeah.
All the incarnations of every single character, and then when you get into the time warps later on, all the different versions, is just he must have absolutely loved that.
That book has been a troubled past. That was started in the early 80s. They started doing that book with Roy Thomas was working on it in the early 80s, Marvel and DC, and it just got lost. I mean, I think George did about 20 pages of it, and then they just had problems between the two companies, so it just got shelved. It was beautiful artwork, but no one saw it. And it wasn't until like the late 90s, early 2000s that they revised it, and Kurt Busiek came in and then redid the storyline and stuff like that. But George, we got one thing. Nobody could draw 1 million characters in one book like George Pérez. He's like the king of that. Every time you see one of those shots, like those epic world colliding stories that you'll see in the DC Marvel thing, there's like 1,000 superheroes, and he's drawn everybody. It's like, wait, where's that guy? Well, there he is. Oh, it's like, where's Waldo? He's got everybody in there. He's amazing when it comes to doing that stuff. I don't think anybody else. Ask Ordway, who had to ink a lot of that stuff. He'd be like, "Oh my god, like another character."
Yeah,
so, it takes forever. You got to have patience to do that.
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
and
they get
all of them are detailed.
Yeah. I know it's not like. And did you ever see Nightwing's costume? People always break his stones about that because it's so complicated when you see all the little detail. What's the other one? Deathstroke. Or Deathstroke's got a complicated costume, and the Marvel version of it. The one that was just in the Black Widow, Taskmaster. He's got a cape. Yeah. He's got Buccaneer boots. He's got a shield. He's got so much stuff. It's not funny, So craziness.
Yeah. But
photo reflexes.
And I think it's funny because I think that JLA Avengers is really kind of that love letter to all the crossovers that you've always seen. And they really feel like they touch everything. I mean, they even do, Thor versus Superman, or, here's Captain America versus Batman. And then they even do Hawkeye versus Green Arrow, and it's, again, it's just it's such a big book that you don't realize it until you're like reading it. And like you said, Mitch, like there's so much detail, it's funny because I definitely agree with that because the big worlds and whatnot. But I noticed it especially when I was rereading Hulk and Perfect. You just see dystopia and you see all of these people, and it's just so elaborate, and it just you really get that dystopian feel, but everything is gorgeous. Nothing is rushed or feels like I was like, oh well, I'll just a couple blank faces, wrap it up, and send it over. He took his time. Everything looks fantastic. It's just like you said. There's nobody else like him, and there never really will be another.
He's got
George
such
Pérez.
a clean style too. When he came aboard, you got to understand, it was like Neil Adams was the shit. Okay, he was the guy. Everybody wanted to be Neil Adams in the early 70s, and then you had a lot of Neil Adams clones and such. And then George comes around, and he takes it and he does his own thing. But then you got to see those, like John Byrne was coming around, who was like a variation of Neil Adams. Bill Sienkiewicz was doing this Neil Adams thing. But George kind of comes up with his own style that's so clean and it's so detailed. Like you said, I mean, every single character is not like a whitewash of everybody. Sometimes you see some people, they'll do a group shot and pretty much they all look the same. Like even Byrne has a problem with faces. Like if it wasn't for the coloring, Reed Richards looks just like Colossus, looks just like Captain America. So they have the same facial expression, the same eyebrows.
Right.
It's kind of very similar. But when Perez does it, every single individual has their own features, their own, nose, their eyes. They look very unique. And it's not like the copycats. Not like, oh, I'm just going to do one style for the whole thing,
Absolutely.
So,
and tying in with what you're saying, Mitch, in this storyline in particular, in the JLA Avengers, there's different, because the two planets or two universes are merging together.
Yeah.
People are phasing to different versions of that character. And it's done very smoothly, and it doesn't ruin the continuity of the story. You don't get lost in it. A lot of times when I see artists and writers put things like that together, sometimes it starts to get confusing. But here, it's just like this smooth, beautiful, clean transition.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, and then the same thing too when the Crisis book came out. I talk about a multitude of characters too. You had Mike DiCarlo inking them, then Ordway comes in and starts inking the book too. There's so many DC characters, but you had the World War II Superman from Earth 1. You had the regular Superman. You had the different Batman. You had the different Huntress and all that. So he takes his time. I don't know how George managed to there was no internet. Okay. There's no way you can go Google what that costume looks like from that character. I can't see a reference to it, but he just manages to give every single character a detailed individual look. And it's amazing. One of those things, maybe we should ask him while we still can, how did he do all this in the days before the internet, the days before you can go simply, Google a bunch of characters or go get a digital copy of what the book will look like. I mean, you'd have to have a vast library.
Well, Mitch, do you remember Marvel Universe? I wonder if he just had a stack of those.
No, this was a lot of this was before that. I mean, the Crisis was 85, 86. They had just started doing the history of the Marvel Universe, and DC had the who's who.
Right.
But I mean, I guess they would just go through the files at the different companies and dig up old comics and see what everybody looked like, But,
yeah, and apparently he had a rich appreciation for all the characters, not just the major ones.
So,
yeah,
he's a local guy too. He's from the Bronx, which is like people always go, "Oh, where did he study around the world?" I go, "He's right over here from New York." So, he's a local guy.
Mitch, was he born here? Or was he born in Puerto Rico?
I think he was here. I think he was born here. Might have come over when he was really early, but I'm pretty sure he was born in the Bronx.
Okay.
Because I know folks that went to school with him. In fact, one of the guys comes to Cave Comics. I see him a lot. A fellow named Tom. He's like, "Oh, there's the shot. Look at that. That's craziness," But yeah, they went to high school with George. They talk about it, and everybody's just trying to emulate his style. It's like, look at that. Because right now, you see this look here. In the 80s, things start to shift. You got Walt Simonson's got his own unique look. You got Frank Miller's doing that minimalistic look. So things start to change. You don't see this high detail anymore. You get your Ordways, your Dan Jurgens. They kind of continue this look where they get in there and they draw all the hairs and the razor stubble on everybody. But a lot of the artists were going more for that stylized, They were going for that motion. And then in the 90s, you got your whole Image guys. Nobody did stuff like this. There was the Liefelds, the McFarlanes, the Larsons. They all went on their cartoony kind of look, where George kept it more realistic. So I mean, you could steer. I think I had a print of this,
Absolutely.
if I remember. I think I had a poster of something like this, and you would just stare at all the characters and go, oh my god.
Yeah.
How long must that be taken? Just that one spreadsheet. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's got to be days.
That must be like 75, 100 characters.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they all fit. I mean, they're Lego sets that can't do that.
See, nowadays what they would do is probably draw them individually and then layer them in Photoshop and put them together like that. This isn't Photoshop. This is pencil. This is pen and ink. This is paper.
Yeah, it had to pre-sync everything.
Yeah. Imagine just in black and white trying to ink that. Your eyes would be falling out of your head. Like, I can't. Where am I? Yeah.
What hero is it? That's not what Superman's cape is supposed to look like.
Yep. I mean, look at the bottom. Look, you got Golden Age Flash. You got Barry Allen's Flash. You got Wally West Flash. You got Quicksilver. I mean, he's like got a little checklist in his head, like, do all the speedsters. Now do all the Power Girls. There's Power Girl. There's Supergirl. There's okay. Now do all the gods. There's Wonder Woman. There's Thor. There's Superman. It's amazing the checklist that's going on in this image. And just look at it all.
And it's funny because I remember one of my favorite moments is that you have Darkseid wearing the Infinity Gauntlet, and Thanos was a parody of, I think, Darkseid.
Yeah.
At one point. Yeah. So you have that where this should be like, comic fans are always doing like, oh, who's better, who's more powerful. You have literally the ultimate thing. You have Darkseid wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. I mean, this is the stuff of nightmares, and it doesn't work, and he just throws it away like it's nothing. And it's just like, dude, it's just
I know,
so
and
funny.
I know that's not one of the books we're talking about tonight, but the Infinity Gauntlet's George's work too. The Starlin Perez Infinity Gauntlet that everybody knows now because of the movies and such. Again, I think the funniest thing George said is they spent billions of dollars making those movies where Thanos says the snap and wipes out half the universe, and George does it in 3 panels. It's like, oh yeah, look at all that $1 million special effects. Watch this. Oh, that's it. I just wiped out half the
2
universe.
hours.
Yeah.
Right.
So with the glove not working in the different universe in this book, was that the first time that's been brought up?
Well, I know they just did it on the TV show Loki. They talked about the Infinity Gems not working because of the multi-universe thing. Yeah, I think so. If I recall, I mean, I read this a long time ago, late 90s, early 2000s. I got my copies here somewhere, and I was going to try to dig them up tonight. But, I think that's the first time that they find out that the magic doesn't work.
Yeah, because I know Darkseid meets Thanos during DC versus Marvel because they had to. And then I know that when Amalgam happened, Darkseid and Thanos match creates, I believe it was Thanos side, of course. But yeah, Leo, I think that's the first time we've seen that, artifacts outside of their own universe don't do diddly squat. So it may be a powerhouse in the Marvel world. But,
as soon as I read that, because this was my first read, is that we just saw that in Loki, and did they get the idea from this book?
Probably. The thing of it is, this book that we're looking at now, either you got the individual issues, and I know the 4th issue is hard to come by. That's the one with Superman holding Thor's hammer on the cover. That's
yes, sir.
A pricey collectible right now. But this trade that you have up here, they never reprinted. It was out there once. Good luck trying to find that for a cheap price right now. And there was a petition circled out last week when George announced his ailment. Folks said, why can't Marvel and DC reprint this? Get the book to George to have him sign and sell it. And then all the proceeds go to help out George and his wife with all their, their medical stuff and things. I think that's a great idea.
Fantastic.
But the reality
so.
is the reality is they're two big corporations. They're not human. Well, they're corporations. They're this big monolithic things that just generate money. That's what they are. That's Disney and Warner Brothers. They're not people, they're entities, you know. They're like the spiritual, they're the gauntlet of the world there. Okay. And I don't know if they would ever work together, even though it's such a good and noble cause. I don't think they could put their differences aside and pull this out and reprint this and do what people said, have George sign them. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's fantastic if they could pull that off. But I don't know if it's going to really happen.
We can hope, and sometimes companies still have to put out a goodwill,
right? You would hope. You would hope.
Put some good face on for the stockholders.
Yeah, somebody said, "Hey, look, they're in the business of making money." I'm like, "Yeah, I get it."
But no, but that would be a dope idea. I'm like,
yeah, the hardcovers I think going for like $300 on Amazon right now.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
Dear God. Yeah, I will say as a collector, you know, someone who not as much anymore, but still buying issues. It's so crazy when I'll look online, like guys, when we reviewed Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, you know, I looked online about a trade paperback, and they're like, "Oh, it's like $400." I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's a reprint."
And, you don't even exactly like. And I have the issues, and like I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
And someone's like, "Oh yeah, I better collect them." I was like, Why would I collect them? They're books. Like if someone's like, "Hey, I want to read this," I'm like, "Okay, here you go." Like I know some people are about that, but me, I'm like, no, they're meant to be read. If I could introduce someone to this bomb ass story that they're gonna love and it's gonna get them hooked on comics, like, well, here you go. You know, it's better than spending money on
it used to be when I was a kid.
Drugs.
Reprints were worthless. Honestly, there was like Marvel Tales, which reprinted Spider-Man. There was was it World's Greatest Comics that did Fantastic Four? Those were like, you threw those out because they weren't the real deal.
Right.
They were just a cheap reprint. And if you couldn't get the book because there was no internet, you'd go get the reprint and you'd read it and then you just throw it away. It was worthless. But like you said, you go online now and I got omnibuses back here that are just reprints of old books, and then I'll go, oh yeah, I didn't get volume 2. Let me go look on eBay. Freaking volume 2 is like $400 or $500 because they only print so many. It's like, wait a second, I could go get the single issues for cheaper than that if I just want to read the story, or go buy it digitally and read the story. Yeah, I don't understand what happened over the last 15 years about collections and trades and such like that. They used to be cheap as could be. Now they're high priced items like everything else. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's crazy, you know, and I understand now the appeal. It's because, why would I have, you know, especially because more and more creators are charging for their autograph. Like, why would I spend all this money for 5 issues when I can just spend the money and have all of them in one collection get signed? I'm like, yes, I see your point, but some of us are strange and prefer individual issues to trade paperbacks. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm looking at my trade paperback collection here. Some you gotta get in trade paperback, like Sandman. Like, yeah, but that works as a book. Like, you know, it's no one's gonna fault you for it, but it's just again, it's the fads of the seller market. But then you know, it's the same thing. Like, you know, a guy trying to claim that he's not going to sell if he has 6 of the same issue getting signed. I'm like, really? How dumb do you think I am?
Yeah,
you're like, we know. But but back to, you know, everything with this, like, this is, I think, one of probably the best crossovers that's ever been made. And Mitch, I agree with you. I don't know why it was slept on. I mean, I understand that there was a lot of things going on behind on the scenes. You know, people switch hands, you know, companies, relationships deteriorate. Well, but it really is, you know, a big thing.
I was going to say they were getting together in the 70s when they had Superman versus Spider-Man. They did that twice. Then they did the Hulk meets Batman. So things were going well. They even did Wizard of Oz between DC and Marvel. They teamed up to do an adaptation of the Wizard of Oz movie. And then right around the early 80s, the goodwill just went away. And that's when that book got shelved. Yeah. And then in the 90s, when they realized that the industry was pretty much screwed, and, you know, stores were closing everywhere and it was imploding on itself, they said, hey, we're in the same boat. You know, we both sell the same stuff. We
Mhm.
both sell soap. You sell Irish Spring, I sell Dove. At the end of the day, it's still soap. So they got together and
Yeah.
they started working on crossovers once again. And that's why you had like Batman meets Captain America and you have the amalgam universe. And that's when this spun out. And then what happens?
Mhm.
There's a falling out. You got your Joe Quesada over here. You got your Paul Levitz over here. And then they split up and they haven't been back since. And that's in the early 2000s, I think it was. That's the last time Marvel and DC really got together on anything. And yeah, and that's why this isn't coming out again. That's why you don't see these reprinted, because they're just, the lawyers don't get along well and they're not going to make this come out again. So if you find it, grab it. You know, I've seen them in bargain bins. I've seen them sometimes in the, you know, dollar bins, some of the books. And if they're there, they're foolish not to grab it, because you're never going to come across it easily. So, but try to find issue
Right.
4. That's the hard one. Issue 1, 2, and 3 are easy. 4 was like, once Captain America picked up that Thor's hammer a couple years ago, suddenly Superman holding Thor's hammer took off, and it was like impossible to find for a decent price.
Well, thank you, Mitch. Now I suddenly feel so much better that I have that, and it's signed by all of them. You know, that's signed by Kurt, George, and I believe it was Tom Smith was the inker.
Tom Smith was the colorist.
Yeah.
On that. Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, it was one of them, because I know he was at a con too.
Yeah.
Because he also did a lot of George's work. I know, because he also inked.
Yeah, he did. He did. When I had him in Bridgeport, I had George and then Joe Rubenstein, the inker, next to him, and then Tom Smith was right next to him coloring stuff. So you'd get a pencil, Rubenstein inked it, and then Tom colored it right there on the spot. So that was pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. So some nice art coming out that day.
Now, with the crossovers, with the crossovers, just recently we had, was it Jason Momoa asking for a live action crossover? There was somebody else asking for it as well. I can't remember who it was. For a live action crossover.
Was it Hugh Jackman?
Might have been Hugh Jackman.
Somebody said, "Can Wolverine meet so and so?" And they're like, "Those are different universes." They're like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, and somebody asked Jason Momoa, and he said like, we can make it happen or something like that. So I mean, people are talking about it. You know, it's you know, maybe one day the mouse will own everything, and it'll happen. But
now, Mitch, do you know in Infinity Gauntlet, George did 1 to 3 and then sort of took a step back?
Yeah, and then Ron Lim comes in.
Why did that happen?
I think, and we're talking early 90s. Like you said, I think he was doing his own project, because I know there was this other company that started up. Was it not Sirens? I know George did a book called Sirens later, but he might have gone on to his own book. It wasn't at Marvel, I'll tell you that. That was like the last Marvel thing he was doing.
Maybe he was having an issue with the Marvel brass at the time.
Well, that's everything was changing hands back in the early 90s, you know. I can't remember what he went to go do. I don't recall the book. I do know there was some other project he was on. So maybe that's why he didn't do the whole series, because it was the Infinity Gauntlet, then the Infinity Crusade, or the Infinity War. There's 3 stories. I'm trying to remember which comes next. I think it's the Infinity War, then the Crusade came after that. And that's all Ron Lim.
What you said, Mitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know what George went to do. I can't remember what the book was, but I do. In my head, I can see pictures in my head of this girl with really curly hair, and I'm trying to remember what the story was that he went to do.
Hold on, I'm looking it up.
Was it for
Totally
Bravura?
it up. Yeah.
Bravura was a company that started up and had Shakin, Starlin, a couple other people. And I think you mentioned Malibu. I don't remember him going to Malibu. I remember that being Norm Brayfogle that did Prime.
Where did he do Sirens on? Who?
Sirens was, not that long ago. That had to be in 2013, 2014. I saw Sirens coming out on the shelves. That was his own book. So.
Would that be his most recent known work?
Well, he did Superman when they relaunched Superman. Remember, Superman was wearing like blue jeans and a T-shirt. That was George.
Right. Okay.
Doing that. That was Action Comics, I think. And then he does. I think it was Sirens. I think that was his last steady big book that he was on, because then he had eye problems. I knew that took him out of the game, and he couldn't draw too well after that.
Oh,
And then he had to
okay.
go for surgeries. So
Okay,
yeah,
so
I don't think that's it.
So now I know what it was. It was because while he was working on Infinity Gauntlet, he was also doing War of the Gods. So
That's it.
you know,
The Wonder Woman thing.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. All right. I knew there was
yeah.
something that was going on.
And when he was falling behind, he wanted to quit War of the Gods because it was quote unquote highly stressful, but he was contractually obligated to finish it. And you know that, and then because he was also at that time used to being both a writer and an artist, he got a little critical of Starlin, how Starlin was doing Infinity Gauntlet. That contributed to a lack of what's looking for like loss of enthusiasm. And apparently it also said that Starlin claimed that he was also acting at the time. So I guess that was apparently some sort of big contributor to the scheduling. So then when it was clear that he couldn't do the deadline for the 4th issue, Ron Lim came on, and yeah. So yeah, so pretty much that. And the rest is history.
I think he continued to ink it though.
He did the covers, I think.
He did the covers, yeah.
I know, because I have his autograph on all 6 of the Infinity Gauntlet issues except issue 4, which was the what I call the Thanos "Come at Me, Bro" cover.
Yeah.
Because I was, you know, hey, come on, yeah, and
I got that as a T-shirt.
No, nice, but like I said, you know, when we were talking about what books to do a tribute, I mean, I got to segue into. I could not think of a better example of George's work than Future Imperfect. I mean, it's a 2-issue story, and it is, like I said, it's one of my favorite Hulk stories because they do in 2 oversized issues what I think it would take sometimes modern storytellers 6, 8 issues.
Yeah.
And it still wouldn't be the scope and the awesomeness that is Hulk Perfect. I mean, it's such a great story, and even if you don't know Hulk mythos the way that, you know, some fans do, like me, I knew some. I read it, I got it immediately, and I was like, wow, this is both a great testament to Peter David, who is still writing Maestro to this day.
Yeah, that
Marvel.
series just came out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, another great example of why George's work is unparalleled. I mean, you see some of those shots for the city, for the battles. I mean, it is just beautiful. And for those listening who have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, because, you know, it's easier for us to tell you, the story is essentially in a dystopian future Marvel, which got wiped out by nuclear war. This is the last city of the world where everyone is under the rule of the Maestro, who we find out is a version of the Hulk that absorbs so much radiation he went insane. And as you know, Hulk, the madder he gets, stronger he is. So if he's fucking insane, he clearly is the strongest he's ever been. So in order to fight him, the rebels find Dr. Doom's time machine, go back and find the one person who could take care of Maestro, which would be his younger self. But you're like, oh, how can he fight him and not dissolve? The multiverse, kids, the multiverse, which is explained to us in a very genius way that, like I said, would have been at least 2 episodes of filler. So if anyone wants to cut me off on my rant, please do so, because I have no idea what I'm doing.
You forgot to include the Hulk has a harem.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, yeah, he does. There's some tasteless drawings there. Tasteful, correction, not tasteless. I mean, tasteful. My apologies, slip of the tongue.
There's his trophy room. Yeah, I love that one.
Boom.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's got everything in there. Yeah.
It does. And I think one of my favorite scenes was when they went back to convince Rick and like how they did it, you know, on the back of his Avengers pass. and what he wrote, I was like, wow. And again, just Mitch, like you said, 2 pages. That would have been like 20 minutes of a film scene. 2 pages.
Yeah.
He's done. Got it. Story continues.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. He's got Wolverine skeleton in there. You just look around the room. You're like, it's got a freaking Sentinel head. It's got Spidey's mask. He's got his web shooters over there. Thor's hammer. Ultron. I mean, it's just like every freaking thing in the Marvel. There's Dr. Ock's arms off to the side. The Absorbing Man's wrecking ball.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's mask is up there from Magneto to freaking the Black Knight. I mean, Jesus. Nova Corps.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It's Easter egg central. And even he wrote on the back of the Avengers Pass was about what you and I did with Marlowe. You know, Marlowe was a character that was during the Gray Hulk era.
That's right. It was Rick Jones' girlfriend. Yeah.
And so that was just a quick thing. But if you're a nerd and you're a Hulk nerd, you're like, oh, that is really awesome that they just put that little fact in there.
Yep.
And this trophy room also shows just so much of that, so much nerd beauty and Easter eggdom.
Yeah.
Well,
beautiful.
Having been a fan of Peter David's work for years, he definitely has a great affinity for things, and he also likes to link his characters in a way that isn't kind of very obvious and a little annoying. Stephen King. You know, he always links them back in a way that makes sense, but also doesn't like completely erode the stories that have been created. And it's just, again, just fantastic. Like I can't really praise this any more than I already have, because it's just fantastic. I mean, even talking to old Rick Jones, I mean, this is Rick Jones. This is the reason the Hulk is the Hulk. And you know, it's coming all full circle. And then you have Maestro is just a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, geez. Like, look at that. Fantastic. Yep. They even say the same line to each other.
And younger Hulk actually gets his neck broken in one of the battles. And it is a slow recovery.
And it's so funny that he is killed by himself, but he doesn't die, because that whole thing where the Hulk is essentially kind of immortal is a big part of the Immortal Hulk series, which wrapped up this year. So again, this story is great because there's so many layers. You know, the entire time they're fighting, you know, Maestro is trying to convince Hulk to join him. It's just, you know, I'm the inevitability. We are the only ones that will survive, because in the end, everything you love will be gone. You know, even the world that you protect will destroy itself. So just accept that and rule with me. And because Hulk is Hulk, he's like, no, accept that.
And you go one back, Leo. This is the beginning where Maestro starts to torture poor Bruce there by, number one, presenting him a woman that looks like Betty. And she, let's say, takes things well in hand, much to the Hulk's chagrin and the Maestro's pleasure. And just a different kind of evil thing that you won't see in the comics normally.
Nope, definitely. Let's just say that there was definitely some gamma fallout in that bedroom. That's all we're gonna say. Definitely. Yep. That's you know what? I wasn't gonna make one. It's the only one I'm gonna say. Okay, that's it.
That's as a story point of view,
the only thing.
As a story point of view, though, is looking at it, you know, as both characters through their eyes, you know, where you know Maestro's pleasure, you know, is Hulk's pain is just crazy to think of, you know, just you know, how much pain is he going through that, you know, he can't let himself, you know, have any sort of pleasure, you know.
Indeed, but oh my God, it's it's so, like, again, just rereading it, it's fantastic. Yes, Rich.
No, I was just going to say, Bruce is a more complex character than the Maestro is, where he wants a woman with intellect, that if he's going to receive pleasure, he wants to have feelings. But for the Maestro, it's nothing at this point. It's just pleasure and calling to his carnal interests.
Well, yeah, because in this case, Maestro is the gamma superpowered version of Alexander the Great. He no longer needs to weep because there are no worlds to conquer. So this is what he has. This is everything, and he's fine with it because he's number one. Hulk is all. Yeah.
Man, I drunk on his own power.
I'm still dealing with the fact that this guy, the minister, is such a spineless oaf that he'll try to kill Hulk. He'll stop. He'll help them. Will force to help them. And then when the tables have turned, back to Maestro. No. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I'm good. Like, they forced me. And the Maestro is like, dude, please.
Yeah.
I was like, God damn, man. Like, go ahead. But I also, again, Hulk using weapons. Like, you wouldn't think that that's terrifying, but that I somehow think that's even more terrifying. Because you think Hulk himself is this figure of power and whatnot. What would he need a gun for? But goddamn. But in terms of battles, the fight in the trophy room is the best. I mean, you've never I've only ever seen one other time Hulk has used, and that was in the Ultimates. Hulk has used Cap shield with such danger, but this one, oh god. Like,
it totally levels them.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then falling on Wolverine's claws was just
yeah.
Poor Rick Jones, man. The Marvel's best worst sidekick.
Yeah.
Just couldn't find one. But the ending is still like the way that they brought it all around. The ending, oh my god, that's got to be the best. That's got to be the best revenge I've ever seen Hulk take on somebody since Immortal. I mean, you literally brought it back to where it all began.
Yep.
And in the end, that still didn't stop Maestro, because Maestro would continue to be a Marvel villain or versions of him, because so
different time.
I tell you, this was such a great book. I remember when they came out with the action figure in the 90s. I was like running across the street to KB. I worked in Norwalk, Connecticut, and there was a KB toy store in our lunch hour. We were like, let's go find this. And somebody's like, oh my God, they made a Maestro figure. And I still have it somewhere here. And it came with the hammer and it came with the shield and all that.
Nice.
And then they literally just redid this a couple months ago. Hasbro came out with a bigger version of the Maestro, and it's somewhere in this mess. But it's an amazing piece. It's a great story. Like when you said we're going to talk about this tonight, I have my 2 issues over there, and I haven't opened them up in about 25 years. I was going to read the whole thing before we did the show, and I'm like, oh, I don't have time because I was looking for that. I was looking for the JLA, and then I'm like, what I do have on my shelf is another fantastic George book, is The Crisis on Infinite Earths, which again is a classic. I mean, how many folks can you name that have touched so many epic stories like Perez has? I mean, Crisis on Infinite Earths, that's somebody's, opus. That's their greatest thing ever. For other artists, that might be it. But no, that's just one of many different books that he's managed to touch. That was another great one when you were going through what books you were going to talk about. I was like, the first one I thought of was Crisis, because that to me is like the first time ever some epic multi-universe world explosion thing happened with all these billions of characters. And who's doing it? George Pérez. And then there's the Titans. You can go on about the Teen Titans, that whole run that he did with the Judas contract and all that. That's an amazing story. I mean, there's just so many gems in George's career that it's really hard just to pick 2 or 3 to talk about.
No, and
absolutely.
And sorry, yeah.
No worries. Well, we had
Um,
discussed, Mitch, of doing like Titans, but we just figured everyone was going to do Titans.
Yeah.
And then Christ is just such a huge story. And then with all the spin-offs of that, it's just insane to try to go over.
Yeah.
But
You know
beautiful,
what?
beautiful.
You know what would be a real challenge? And I think the Future Imperfect probably the closest to it. I was going to say, pick one book, just one, that represents like the greatness of George Perez's style and his artwork and his storytelling with images and such. And I was like, that you just had that up there. That's a pretty good representation. I mean, you know, the fights, the brutality of the punches, you could feel them when he's punching Cap's shield and Rick's just torn to pieces there. And then at the end with the explosion, and it recreates the very first Jack Kirby image with the bomb going up and, you know, making the negative image of Bruce Banner and his scream. It's all in there. So I'm going to say Future Imperfect is pretty much a great representation of George Perez's amazing artwork. You know, if you had to just pick a standalone series like that, you know, that's out there. I'm trying. There's got to be another one out there that's just a one issue. You know.
Oh man, I feel like one of his issues of Infinity Gauntlet probably would also be a good example. I mean, you got that scope.
Yeah, Infinity Gauntlet's up there too. But again, a lot of it might be as simple like I said, I used to love him on Marvel 2-in-1, which was a throwaway team up book with the Thing, and George would do fantastic work on stuff. And then, like I said, he's done Fantastic Four. He's done almost everybody. You know? Avengers, there was fantastic 2 times on the Avengers. You know, the stuff that he did in the 70s, and then he comes back with Kurt Busiek. There's some amazing work there too. I don't know. It's really hard to pinpoint. Just like, you know, if you had to go out tomorrow and buy the greatest hits ever, of George Perez, what would you buy for somebody? Oh, that's a legacy. Oof. That's something to look back upon. I hope George is looking there and realizing that so many fans are there coming up to him with so many different books. Like you said, you had the Infinity Gauntlet. Somebody could bring the JLA book. Somebody could bring the Titans book. Somebody could bring the event. There's so many books in so many decades. How many other artists got to do stuff in 4 or 5 decades? You know, that still impacted people.
Yeah.
That they came up. I mean, Jack Kirby, Byrne. I mean, there's not that many people. Neil Adams, you know, that actually had such a long career.
Yeah. But
his Fantastic Four run.
But
that was in the 70s.
But Mitch, I am that fan who would still bring all of those just to get.
Oh, I know. You're the guy. You're the guy I have to tap on the shoulder at my shows and go, "Sir, could you please stand at the back of the line and let the other people come through that have only 1 or 2 issues, and you got your little small box on your little luggage cart, and you want to get like 200 books down?" I'm like, dude, come back in an hour, will you?
Okay,
but you know,
I'd like to stress I have
George would sign every one of those books, and he did that stuff when I was in Bridgeport with him. He said that one, I can't remember, the guy did bring in a long box of like 300 books, and he said, "Listen," and again, is in that pleasing, kind George voice that could talk you down off a wall. You know, if you're going to jump, could you please wait until all these other people have had an opportunity to get their 1 or 2 books signed, and I will gladly sign all your books once I'm done with these people. And the guy, okay. And he just walked away and let everybody do. And true to his word, as soon as the line was gone, George come back. And now the guy comes back and he gladly starts signing hundreds of books, you know?
Right.
And the guy wasn't mad. He wasn't like, "Oh, screw you. I came all the way up here from Texas and I want my stuff now."
Right.
Okay. You know, very pleasant, walked away. Again, it's a model on how to treat people, you know?
And it's something rare that only certain people, and I believe it was you, Rich, that were telling me that, you know, he was one of the first people to show up at a con and always last to leave.
Yep. He would be there. The show would open like at 10 in the morning. He'd be there at 9.
Yep.
And you're like, and a lot of times guys come in late. I'll tell you the truth. A lot of big name artist types or writer types wait until their line grows before they'll even though they're supposed to be there at 2:00. They know they're there sometimes, and they'll let it grow.
I've been there.
And they'll wait till like 2:30 to show up, and the line's down the street, and people are like, "Oh," it's like, "Oh, look at the anticipation," you know. But not him. Nope, he was there before the show opened, and then is everyone there? Has anyone left? Is everybody got their autograph? I don't want to miss anybody. And he would make sure every single person, even if the building was closed, we'd have to get that last couple in for him to sign. And then he didn't want anybody to walk away and say, I didn't get what I needed to get from him. He didn't want any bad blood between anybody.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
again, that's rare. That's very rare.
I need to state for my own ego, I have never been a cart person. I was always a rolling suitcase, Mitch, and I have always been cognizant if there's a long line. I feel like I had to say it because I've seen those guys, and I remember one of the many times I remember one of the many times I met Peter David. He told me about this one guy who had all of his Incredible Hulk run, which, gentlemen, Mitch, you know this, and I don't know if you guys know this too.
3 omnibuses back here,
right, and he had all of it in issue form, and he wanted all of them to be autographed by Peter David. Which Peter David, I've given him stacks, and he just marathons this shit out of it. He loves that, but the guy wanted it like each one to be personally autographed, and Peter David was like, "Hell no." Like, Peter David will not. That man does not mince words. If it is an unreasonable request, he will promptly tell you, "Hell no."
No,
respectfully speaking.
Andy Cooper, he'll sign the books. I've been with him in Boston, and there was a guy that came with a long box on a cart, and Andy did the same thing. So, could you please wait till everyone's done? As soon as the guy was done, they bring him over, and he stacked like 300 books. And Andy Cooper, Andy Cooper, Andy Cooper, Andy Cooper. I'm like, oh my god! I was like, I wouldn't do it, But
I have to say that there have been cases I've been that guy. We learn, we evolve, and we grow up and learn that it's better to get arcs signed than the whole goddamn run. But Rich, don't look at me like that.
I didn't say anything.
But yeah, I know you didn't have to. I felt that gaze, like,
and I got to tell you, this is before CGC. This is before people had witnesses that would like encapsulate the book and increase the value. I mean, I've got boxes of books that are just signed. There's no value. There's no like CGC. It's just a personal thing. It's like, hey, I really like that book. Could you just sign it? I don't really, I'm not smart enough to understand the whole psychology behind stuff like that. Like, you bought it, they got their money, you got your enjoyment out of it. You're bringing it back to them to have them know that you like, and they sign it. It's a weird fan thing that you can't really put a finger on why it's like that. But there is a gratification that comes knowing that you've expressed to them, thank you very much for the effort and all the work, because it did bring some joy to you somehow on some level. There's some kind of satisfaction knowing that they know. And like George says in his letter that he wrote last week, he wants to have that one opportunity to come out and the fans to see him at least one more time, to just talk to each other, And like I said, when I wrote about meeting him, he loved the fans love George, and George loves his fans. And that's all you can really say. I mean, look, everyone has a bad day. If he's having a bad day, and God knows he's entitled, because like I said, the physical ailments he's had to endure, you'll never know. You'll never see it. He doesn't sit there. He doesn't he doesn't have a puss on his face. Like, why the hell are you here? Or get the hell away. It was never rude, never swore at anybody, never said anything like that. Always smile, standing up, greeting people, happy to see them. And again, people have memories for him for decades about how much fun he's always been around and how much fun it's to be with George, and never a negative thing. Not one person, I think, is on this planet that can say they had a bad encounter with him at any show, anywhere, So that's a testament to how just fantastic he is, So I hope the rest of them out there learn from him. You know what? Everyone's here to teach somebody something. I hope the younger artists, the younger creators that are out there on the circuit that are the new big deals, look over and say, look at that guy. He's been here since the 70s. He started off on the bottom, and look how much he's achieved. And he never forgot to be appreciative of the people that paid for him to be there. Okay. That's a big thing that a lot of people lose. And it's very aggravating for me as a producer because I have to defend people. I have to say, well, so and so's having a bad day. Look, my dad worked construction. Okay. He worked in the hot goddamn sun when it was 100 degrees out. That's a real hard fucking job. That's a fucking job you don't want. Okay. You don't want to be a cop. You don't want to be a fireman. These are real jobs. To sit there and bitch and moan,
but people got to do them.
That you can't sign your fucking name to somebody who's shown up and paid money to sit there and to see you, and you're too like, oh, I gotta leave. I don't want to sign. Get over yourself, okay? Get over yourself. You are not the be and end all of anything. You're just another person that's been fortunate through God's grace and your talent to get to a certain level. Don't forget the people that helped put you there. Sign their damn book, talk to them, say hello, and say thank you. And for the fans, don't be a jerk back. Be appreciative of them too. They don't work for you, but just say, hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your work. Thanks for coming down here. Thank you. Let's just be, like I said, George was, equal respect on both sides. The fan side and on the other side of the table, the creator side. If that was it, you'd be amazed how much that would radiate and make the whole myth of the angry fanboy go away. Because they always hear that. People are like, oh, they're just a bunch of angry fanboys. And that's just an angry actor or artist that's having a bad day. And they're making excuses for people. It's like, you know what? Not that hard. You're only there for a couple hours. Terrificon's 3 days. You know how many hours it really is?
Right.
About 17 hours. 17 hours in 3 days. That's all it is. You're not giving breaks and lunches and bathroom breaks. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? If you can't be nice to somebody for 17 hours, what's wrong with you? Give me a break. Jesus H. Christ. Sorry, I'm on my pulpit, but
that's great.
No, with people backstage and going, hey, could you go back out there and be a little nicer? What? I'm like, yeah.
No, Mitch, you live that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen you. All three of us have seen you at your con. And you're always a gentleman.
You're a madman.
You try to make everyone have a great time, and that should totally be like stressful, and you should have this look of worry on your face.
Yeah.
But you always keep so cool and so calm.
Oh well.
For the most part.
It's like my boss once said, when you see a swan, it looks so graceful as it's going across the water. Little do you know that underneath the water, its legs are going like this to keep itself afloat, and it's freaking out. But it looks so calm. You can't be the captain of the airplane and go like this. Oh my God, we're gonna crash. You got to be like, oh, we're good. Everything's good. You wouldn't feel comfortable getting on an airplane if you saw the pilot shaking and saying a Hail Mary and going like this and hoping they land safely. So you got to be the guy in charge. You got to be calm. You got to make sure everything happens. But there's a lot behind the scenes you don't see that I'm kind of like.
Right. Well, my point was that perhaps George rubbed off on you, and you're such a mensch, and even that you come on and you still respond to me. You and I went to the same comic shop at one point.
Oh yeah, we did. I was going to say, of everybody in the show, you've known me the longest. So you've seen behind the scenes and me, punching walls and screaming and stuff. And it usually comes down to, and you said it to me too, I'm trying to please everybody. Right. I'm trying to make everybody have a great time to my detriment, to my own sickness. Like, oh my God, I'm going to explode, but I'm trying to make sure everyone's having fun. You're like, you got to step back. And Leo, people might not know this. My first job out of college for 5 years was an art director at a catalog company. That years later, Leo would inherit my job. We didn't know each other, but he did the same job I did. And it was like, oh my God, weird. And I ran the whole show. I was the photographer, the art director, the guy. I was doing the same thing that I do for the conventions, except I was doing it in catalogs. I was doing everything. And you can't lose your crap. You can't go nuts. You can't start throwing things. You can't be a madman. You just have to be like George. That's our new thing. Be like George. Be like Perez. Just smile. Wear a lot more Hawaiian shirts. Maybe we should start. That's our tribute.
There we go.
You know what? If you're listening to this and you want to be at a show, from now on, cosplay's great, but start buying more Hawaiian shirts. And every time you see an Hawaiian shirt, whether George is with us or he's not with us at some point in the future, that's our little tip of the hat to Mr. Perez. and the inspiration he has for us.
2022, more
So-
Hawaiian shirts.
2022, the year of the
I have-
Hawaiian shirt.
Oh,
I
I'll
have
start
so
digging
many
them out now.
things.
Gives me a reason to dig them out.
There you go. I have so many things to say. So I have so many thoughts because that rant was fantastic. So
Sorry, I do this a lot. Drew.
no, that's
Love
fine.
it. Love it.
No. So the few things. One, Mitch, I'm convinced that there's some timeline where I'm going to become you. Somehow,
You don't want to
just
be
as that,
me.
I was like,
I'm
wow.
fat and nasty. You don't want to be
No. It was fine with that. I've accepted this future. It's either that or I'm going to look like old Bruce Wayne from Batman Beyond. Either future is pretty fine with me.
That's not
Two,
bad.
what I heard was in 2022, George Con, all Perez all the time. So
Yeah.
everybody did that. The other thing is, dear sweet God, everything you've said is exactly anything I've thought about any creator that did online, because lately it just feels like, and I respect that a lot of guys are getting good cred. You know, a lot of books are blowing up. They get that money. A lot of these people have families and whatnot. And I understand cons have changed. And I understand that hotels are expensive. Transportation is expensive. People got to eat.
Yeah.
People got to drink water. All that
I'll
thing.
show you my
I get
bills.
that. So
Yeah.
charging makes sense. I get that. But like you said, when it's funny because I remember I was at Terrificon and I was waiting online with my friends and we were waiting for Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman.
Okay.
And we must have been waiting.
They are two great guys. They will sign everything. So they're
exactly.
people.
But they were running late and they were like 30, 40 minutes late. And like you said, people were getting irritable because, and whatnot. But they came in and like you said, they stayed until every person on the line got everything. And I was like, you know what? And I was staying on line for a friend. Like I was getting books signed for my friend. I was like, like I knew them, but I hadn't read Venom or King in Black and whatnot. But I knew who Donnie was, and I've been a big fan of Ryan since he did his work on Dan Slott's Spider-Man. But that was great. But then there are some people, and I hate to say it, some of it's older, some of it is younger. Like you said, it's such an inconvenience. I was like, my dude, I bought your work. I'm supporting you.
Yeah.
You can't take 2 minutes to sit with me. Like you said, like they won't even get up, they won't even shake your hand. It's just, thank you, bye. And I'm just like, really?
Yeah.
Like we can't have a conversation. I can't tell you about this moment that I really loved and why I loved it, that you worked on, you birthed into here. And like you said, like sometimes, and I'm very apologetic. Like if I call somebody and they're not signing their art, and I ask them a question and they're like, I'm sorry. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll be back around that time, yeah, exactly. I'm very much like, I'm not an obnoxious fan, like, but I'll like, God, what was it? I remember, it's funny enough, again, in Terrificon, you had JMS and I met JMS back in like 2010. And that was an amazing experience. I didn't even get him to sign. I got him like a signed few comics, but I'm going to sign like a VHS of an episode he wrote for the Real Ghostbusters, which he loved. He was like, what the fuck? He was so happy. And I took a photo with him. And then I met him at your con and I had like a shit ton of books. And I was going to get some things signed. Mitch, relatively speaking, it's JMS. He was going to have a line. Yeah. And he just looked sad. He just looked kind of like dejected and bored. And he signed like, it was, this is how I saw it. I could be wrong. I was also mad because I brought a lot of books. I only got one signed because it was like first free and then 10 a pop.
Oh, okay.
So I was probably a little jaded there, but he just looked a little sad. And I felt bad because I'm like, wow. And then I'm like, yeah, but what has he done since then? I'm like, okay.
Oh no, he's done a lot, man. He's done movies with Angelina Jolie. He's done that Sense8. I mean, he's been busy on a lot of projects. Yeah.
Exactly. But like you said, and like you said, maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he was a little down. I don't know. They're people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you said, sometimes a lot of people I know, they're having a crappy day, but they meet a fan. They'll talk to you. They'll shake your hand. They'll make a joke.
I'll tell you,
these they can do.
2010, I was in Philadelphia, and this has nothing to do with Perez or anything like that, but Walter Koenig, who played Chekhov on Star Trek, he was at this Wizard World show I was at, and his son had just passed away. He was on that, I don't know, was it Family Ties or one of those shows? He played Bonner or Bonner or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. That was Family Ties. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, was it Family Ties? Okay.
Yeah.
So he was there, and there's Walter Koenig, there's Mr. Chekhov. And what he did at the show, and I've seen other actors do this, like Ernie Hudson does it too. He was in costume. So he had that red Star Trek uniform from the movies, you know, with the little turtleneck thing and stuff. And he's there, and no secret, he wears a hairpiece. I mean, he's balding, so he had this Chekhov wig on. And he was just standing in the aisle by himself as people walked by him like he wasn't even there, you know? And he's just standing there, and he's, I don't know how old he is, maybe 70s at that point. I don't know. And, you know, the guy, just on a human level, he had just lost his son not too long early, you know, about a month or so ago. And I remember just watching people go by him, and no one was doing anything. And he's just there. And talk about looking sad. I mean, this man had cause to be sad. So I walked up to him. I said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Koenig. How are you?" He's like, "Oh, hello." And he was like in a little bit of a fog, you know, deep in thought. I said, "Would you like a water or something, like a bottle of water or soda?" He's like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you." "No, I'm good." I said, "You sure you want to sit down?" No, I'm fine. But thank you for asking." I said, yeah, not a problem. You know, I said, you know, just, I don't want an autograph or a photo. I said, just want to see if you're okay. You know, everything all right? He goes, yeah. And then I'm walking away, and you just have to, because this is where I am. I said, "I'm very sorry for your loss." And you just see his face for a brief second. It's almost like, you know, and he goes, "Oh, thank you kindly." And his voice dropped down. He just shook my hand and walked away. And that was it. I didn't ask for an autograph. I'm a big Star Trek fan as well. I knew who he was, but that was just it.
Right.
And again, like you said, you don't know what's going on in someone's world or whatever, but I always remember that. And it's been 12 years now. I just remember seeing him standing there by himself in the midst of 30,000 fans running around, and he's in this kind of outfit, you know, and you just go, wow, how anybody, you know, if it was a cab driver or anybody just lost somebody close to them, you do, Jesus God, I feel sorry for you, you know, and you just there, nobody seemed to care, you know. That's just got me. People were just like in their own little world and taking pictures with, you know, whoever else there and getting autographs. I'm like, wow,
you got to be a human being.
Yeah, they're exactly. They are human beings, and you got to remember that. So, again, as much as I rant and rave, maybe something happened. Maybe he got a bad phone call. Maybe he had a bad stomach. I don't know. Maybe he ate a bad salad or something. I don't know. But, you know, just try to take that in somewhat of consideration. Sometimes when you meet, like, you don't know what's going on there, you know. So, especially this year, let me tell you, this year's Terrificon, with everything going on with the world, with COVID and all that stuff, everybody was a little on edge. I mean, we were all back together after 2 years, but we were all extremely cautious, and you could not be unaware of what was happening in the world and go, "Oh, look, we're all back to normal." It wasn't back to normal. It was still a little like, let's be a little careful out there, you know? So we were all happy to see each other, but at the same time, we were all a little worried about what's going to happen in the future and such. So, I mean, these are strange times we live in. So you gotta think of that a little bit now. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
You also get it where you know, people don't really they forget how to act with others.
They do. Yeah. I think it's gotten worse because we've all been stuck home for 2 years now, that the isolation hasn't helped with social interaction. And again, a lot of us fanboys and gals are not the most extroverted folks in the world. We're a little we like being with our books. We like being in a basement where I am now, and we don't want to talk to people. We just like being in our own little world. That's why we're happy sometimes. So when we get out there with other people who are just like us, we kind of forget how to engage in verbal communication. You know, it's easy to type on a keyboard, but it's hard to like look at somebody in the eye. And even this with this Zoom nonsense, it's like, I'd much rather be in a room with all you guys talking to you, you know, instead of this, like, you know, touching a screen. You know, it's kind of like being on the Jetsons. You know, but hey,
but hey, listen, we make do, and I think especially just kind of wrap at that point. It's just it wasn't just, and it's funny because I was talking about this with somebody else. It's not just a minority. Like this has happened to a small group of people. This is the whole world. So we're kind of on uncharted territory with what to do now. And I think especially that's why this year, in some ways, I think was a little harder than last year in certain respects, because you saw people try to go back to how things were. We tried to move past it. And then you realize, and it wasn't just with Delta and Alpha and Omega and whatever the hell is coming next. You know, we can't do that. We are moving forward whether we want it or not. Right. And we're all different now. We're all still us, but there are things now that are different. Our priorities changed, our outlooks are different. So someone who you could have thought would be a bestie could feel like a stranger now. And we have to be like, that's okay. That's just inevitability. Some people, like you said, Mitch, you're going to see them and it's like 2 years were 2 days ago.
That never happened. Yeah.
You know? Exactly. But, you know, and I think it's really easy to focus on the negatives, and there are a lot. And especially with George, like you said, we don't know. Like a lot of people, unfortunately, especially with older people, you don't know when they passed. So we just lost the singer from the Monkees recently, you know?
Yeah. Mike Nesmith.
Michael Nesbitt. Yeah. So that's a huge loss to the music world. I'm sure there's other stuff.
I've said it before, and before the announcement about George's health, I said this. I don't know if it was in one of the booklets, one of the programs that I sent out at the show, or if it was online or one of these shows. But I said, like you said, you never know. I'm going to be here tomorrow, Rich, or Leo. You don't know what's going to happen. So you should always kind of, if you want to say something, you don't have to hug and kiss somebody, for God's sakes. But I'm just saying, maybe, now that we've gone through this in the last 2 years, we've kind of thought more about it, like our own mortality and how long we're going to be here. I don't want to get dark and depressing, but you just kind of go, hey, it's you wouldn't, let me just tell you, I've never had a happier moment in my 55 years on this earth than when I looked down that hallway and saw all those people lined up at Terrificon. And I went down the hallway to the very last guy, and it was a long damn line. Let me tell you that. My wife's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm down and meeting the last guy in line. But I do that. I run down the aisle and I say, hey, thank you for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. No, thank you. Thank you. And I'm waving, I'm talking to everybody, because it was so goddamn nice to see everybody again. You don't understand. I was getting like tears in my eyes, like, oh my God, you're back. And not to get maudlin or sappy, but you and then you see familiar faces. You see people that you see all the time. You're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're all right. Even if I think you were a jackass, I hated you, but I'm actually glad that you're still with us. It was really a weird feeling to see everybody back again. And I don't know if that's going to happen the second year and the third year this is going, but this 1 year, this first time back after 2 years, made me really appreciate everybody that was out there, not just the fans, but all the actors and the artists and the writers, because you didn't see them either for the last couple of years, And it was kind of cool to hook up with everybody again and just see it. And like you said, we fell into step very quickly. Like it hadn't been 2 years. It seemed like 5 minutes ago we were together, but you just got to learn to appreciate that. You just have to, you never know when you might see these folks again. And when you do get the opportunity, even if you don't buy that autograph, even if you don't get the photo op or whatever, just give them a little nod or a little wave, just say, hey, acknowledge that I appreciate you and what you've done. And, you know, and hopefully they look back and give you a smile and a nod too. But you just don't know, when you're going to see somebody again. So,
and
that makes sense.
It's just kind of piggybacking off what you said, Mitch, because guys, I think we might want to wrap this up soon.
Yeah. Our Christmas special. God bless everybody. Go out there, help the poor.
Yeah, but I've kind of felt a similar way that you said, Mitch. I was like, I wanted to post about it, but I'm very much not really about posting about a lot of personal stuff online, because unfortunately people will take that as, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. Yeah. Like, I just wanted to say this because it's how I'm feeling. I'm kind of tired of when people pass, you always get if I had done this, then and I know it's inevitable because you're always going to think of the woulda, coulda, shouldas, but I'm kind of tired of hearing it simply because it's always the same thing. Like, oh, had I known, I wish I had done this more. I was like, just do it. Just
Yeah.
stay in touch with people. Be okay. People grow apart. People, you can realize you're not a good person for me, and that's okay. But I can't be your friend. Or if you have been meaning to get in touch with this person that you lost touch with, just how are you? It's been a while.
Yeah.
Or like you
know,
said, hey, what's your
Yeah, I was talking to somebody
Yeah,
about
no.
doing the show tonight, and I'm on another show tomorrow. And they were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "We're going to talk about George." They said, "Well, he's not gone yet." I said, "No, I know. God, thank God, he's still here."
Yeah.
And then like, well, it's kind of weird, but all the outpouring, all the comments people have been saying in the press and online with the fans and stuff, George is reading all this stuff. I know for a fact. I do know for a fact because my friend tells me he's reading every comment, everything. And he loves every period, every sentence, every dot and I, every cross T, everything you guys are writing, he's reading out there right now. And like you said, unfortunately, too many times it happens after someone's gone, and they're not going to hear it.
Yeah.
They're gone. They're whatever was here, it's gone. Okay, I don't care what hocus pocus you believe in. Most of it, they're not going to ever hear. So this has given him an opportunity. Why he's here. To actually hear all us talk, hear all those little comments about what he meant and what he's done for us and how he's, inspired us and such. So, I mean, in a weird way, it's a kind of like a nice gift, even though it's a sad thing that's happening, but it's in a weird way. It's a good way for you to express your gratitude and your appreciation for all the enjoyment he's given to you. And for him to hear and see and read all that stuff too has got to be, I'm not a doctor, but maybe on some level it's helping him physically. I mean, it's boosting his spirits and such. So what I'm saying is don't stop doing it.
Yeah.
For God's sake, keep on doing it. And, and know that it's being received every day, every single hour he's out there reading this stuff. So I'm sure he appreciates it, and, don't stop doing it. And not just because it's George who said he's sick. Take the time and tell some of these other folks that are still here that you did appreciate their work. You don't need to get an autograph. You don't know to get a CGC. You don't need to have it all signed and worth thousands of dollars. You could just simple little letter. Hey man, just want to let you know, big fan, not looking for anything. Just want to say thank you for, giving your talent.
All your hard work.
All your hard work.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, just learn from George's example. He's doing what he's doing, but do it for other folks that you might not know what their health is, because you might not know when you're going to see them again at a show or anywhere.
I think what it really comes down to is it's about being better and not expecting the world will be better instantly. It's just that's for you, because if you're better, that in itself is inspiring, and then that unconsciously will maybe inspire others. And you can't do it because that's the purpose. Like you said, Mitch, it's just you're doing it because it's right. Because it's so easy to just fall in that pit of everything sucks, everything's awful,
especially on the internet.
Exactly. Oh God, no. Yeah, and
it's
guys,
a cesspool of negativity. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of the problems we've had in the last couple of years as a society is a direct result of this nonsense. This is internet. Like, just because you can think it doesn't mean you should say it. Your mom raised you to be a little better than that and kind of hold your tongue. But nowadays, there's no filter. People just spew whatever stupidity they want, not realizing the ramification it has, not realizing what their words mean to somebody or how it hurts somebody. And it cascades and gets out of control. And it's like, and then they start acting that way in public. It's like, whoa. Where's your civility? Calm down. We don't talk that way to people. We're better than that. Okay.
Get in touch with your emotions. Absolutely.
Oh,
in the beginning of this, when we were telling stories about George, I was tearing up, and it was making me a little sad. But as we talked about him more, I realized this whole conversation is a celebration about his art and his life and his journey,
100%,
which is amazing. Which is what we're honoring here tonight.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, as a male growing up in the 70s, which growing up with, Mitch is a child of that era as well. And Leo not too far behind. Drew, you're our junior, but you're no young man yourself anymore.
So far behind. But I'm an old soul.
We can't be afraid of, as males, saying, I love you, and I'm going to hug you, and I'm going to have a great interaction with you. And I remember the last time I saw Mitch in person, Leo actually was a factor in that. I live really close to where Super Mega Fest is. He needed a Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man on TV.
Yeah,
He
Nicholas
wanted
Hammond.
his
That's
thing.
right. Yeah, the autograph.
I missed him.
remember that. Yeah.
Leo was there all week, and he grabbed it. I grabbed it from Leo on Sunday and came on down to see Mitch. I thought we were going to be together for 10, 15 minutes, and I think we ended up sitting and talking for 2 hours.
Yeah, we did. We did at my kitchen table. Yep.
And we had a great interaction, and I love Mitch. We have a great history together. And as a man, I love you, Mitch. Drew, I love you as my partner. And Leo, you putting this whole network together, 40 shows, our new intro, doing so much work. This has been a year now of us together, just about. And we're now award winning. We won the Amalgam Internet Award after only 6 months. And this has been a great opportunity. I just want to let you guys know you are all my friends, and I love you, and I have deep, deep feelings for all of you in different ways.
Well,
so that's my super positive Joker love fest at the end of the year.
Well, the feeling's mutual, my friend, and everything you said there, Mitch, very well said. We just need to treat everybody like we want to be treated. It's there's an old.
I think I heard that in Catholic school, if I remember.
Yeah. Right after they wrapped your fingers.
Well, since
bad boy.
They ripped my comic books up. Let's not talk about it.
Those monsters.
Florence.
Well, since we're ending the movie, guys, I guess we'll have to end it like good old fashioned. God bless us, everyone. And to all the comic nerds out there, lesson is stop being a schmuck and be better. Okay? We love you all. In 2022, we're going to tiptoe into very cautiously and hope for the best.
Shirts.
But
we're Hawaiian shirts.
And we're Hawaiian
I want to
shirts.
start seeing that.
Now,
I want to see Terrificon. I want to see a whole room full of Hawaiian shirts. And I can hopefully send the picture to George and go, thinking of you. There you go.
Purple and green. I'll be looking for them.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well,
I will say that, before we go, did we want to just quick review of the comics, or do we just all agree? Amazing. 5 stars. You know what? I take it back. 5 stars, all George, done. I'm good.
Boom, boom. 5 stars.
Yep, totally agree.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Boom, boom. And thank you, George. If you see this, thank you for all your hard work over the years. We love you. You're incredible. And we honor you as a person as well as an artist. God bless you and your family.
Titans forever.
Thank you all for joining, and just check the show notes for everybody's information. Everything is all there. Mitch, where do you like people interacting with you on social media?
I don't. I don't want to be bothered. No. After all that schmooze, get away from me. You bother me. You can find me at Terrificon.com. You can find me on Twitter at It's Terrificon. You can find me on a podcast called The IndieCast for the last 14 years about Indiana Jones. I'm on a YouTube show called Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure, where we look at old movies. Tomorrow, we're looking at the Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man, coincidentally. Nice. And then I'm with Jerry Ordway, my buddy, artist, writer extraordinaire, on the Power Cosmic podcast. Over 200 episodes. I think it's 5 years of that. That's out there. And, of course, if you're in the Connecticut area, every Friday morning on the Chaz and AJ Morning Show, where I'm the king of the nerds, doing my top 10 list. And that's about it. I think that's enough. Don't talk to me. Get off my lawn. Okay.
Drew.
I'm checked out, everybody. No, it's fine. Listen, I'm checked out already. I'm already tweeting this. I don't have Twitter. So listen, everybody, if you need to find me, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. If you just look up Drew Malo and you see something involving Ghostbusters, that's probably me. I'm also heavily here. I jump on whatever show that seems somehow interesting to me. If I'm not doing that, I'm pretty much over at Screen Rant. I do stuff for I write for them. I do other stuff behind the scenes. And you might see me at a con, you might not. If it looks like Deadpoo, that's totally me. And This has been an honor and a privilege to be here, and we'll see you next week.
Rich.
Well, you know me, I'm Rich Davis on Facebook. You can find me Velvet Joker 2021 on Instagram, or Ghostbuster Man 1984 on Instagram. That's me as well.
Hey.
You can reach out to me there.
Jerk. Stealing my swag.
And you know what's funny, Drew? I watch Screen Rant every day.
Thank you. It's not me, but thank you.
No, I do. I watch
So-
all that stuff. I've got no life.
Well, that's good. It's okay. So,
I want to thank everybody for watching. For me, just Google Leo Pond, but more importantly, follow these awesome people. And with that, we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Peace out.
out.